She thought he was going to drown her. Cold river water pushed against her waist, her legs shaking, her breath breaking into short, panicked gasps. Then a man's hands grabbed her from behind, strong, rough hands. Clara Whitmore jerked hard in his grip, twisting, trying to pull away, but her strength was gone, burned away by fear and days without rest. Easy. That hurts. The man froze. Elias Boone hadn't meant to hurt her. From the riverbank, he had seen a young woman walking straight into the North Platte River, her steps uneven, her eyes empty, like she had already left this world behind. He had seen that look once before, years ago, and it had ended with a body drifting downstream. So he didn't think. He dropped his reins and went in after her. Now he stood there, waist deep in the slow summer current, holding a stranger who looked more frightened of him than of the river. He loosened his grip just a little. Careful now, like handling a wounded horse. That's when he felt it. Not water, not trembling. Bruises, long, deep marks running around her wrist, hidden beneath the soaked fabric. Another along her shoulder, the kind that didn't come from falling, the kind that came from being held down or tied. Elias didn't say a word, didn't ask a question. Her clothes were torn in ways that didn't come from branches or rocks. Her breathing wasn't the breathing of someone giving up. It was the breathing of someone who had been running too long and still wasn't safe. Clara pulled her arms in close, trying to hide the marks, her eyes darting past him, scanning the far bank, then the trees, then the open land behind. Not once did she look back at the river. She wasn't here to die. She had come here to get away. Elias followed her gaze. That's when he saw it. Fresh tracks in the mud along the far edge of the bank. More than one horse. Close together. Recent. He felt something cold settle in his chest. Colder than the river itself. Whoever she was running from hadn't given up yet. And whoever they were, they rode hard enough to push a girl into a river just to escape them. Elias tightened his jaw, then gently guided her toward the shore. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story, but he knew one thing for certain. This wasn't his trouble. And it sure as hell wasn't small. So why? Standing there in that quiet stretch of water, did it feel like walking away would cost him more than getting involved ever could? Elias didn't take her into town right away. A man his age learned a long time ago. Trouble didn't always look like trouble until it was too late. He walked her along the edge of the river instead, keeping low, letting the trees break their outline from the open land. The girl stayed close, quiet, every step careful, like the ground itself might betray her. After a while, she spoke, her voice barely holding together. "My name is Clara." Elias gave a small nod. "Elias Boone?" That was enough talking for him, but Clara kept glancing back. Not at the river, at the land they had just left. That told him everything he needed to know. By the time they reached the outskirts of Fort Laramie, the sun was already climbing, heat settling into the dust. Normal life. Elias didn't like it. He led her straight to a place he trusted more than most, a boarding house run by Mrs. Agatha Pike, widow, sharp eyes. Didn't ask foolish questions. Mrs. Pike took one look at Clara and didn't say a word. She had seen that look before. Too many times in Fort Laramie. Just handed her a blanket and pointed upstairs. That was her way. Later, while Clara rested, Elias stood near the front watching the street through the window. Something in his gut wouldn't settle. Mrs. Pike came up beside him, drying her hands. "That girl didn't come from the river," she said quietly. Elias didn't answer. Didn't need to. A few minutes later, she called him upstairs. Clara was sitting on the edge of the bed, shoulders tight, knees wide. Mrs. Pike held a piece of cloth that had been cut open. There was stitching inside her dress, Mrs. Pike said. Clara's face went pale. Mrs. Pike unfolded it. A small paper slipped out. Names, several of them, all women, alongside places Elias knew, Fort Laramie, Cheyenne, and marks beside them, numbers, short notes, like someone marking freight that didn't belong to them. Clara reached for it fast, almost panicked. "Please, that's not what you think." Elias looked at her, steady. "Then tell me what it is." She hesitated. That hesitation said more than words. Before she could answer, the front door downstairs opened. Heavy boots, slow steps. Not a traveler, not a farmer. Someone who walked like he expected space to be made for him. Elias turned his head slightly. Mrs. Pike's eyes narrowed. They both heard it. A calm voice from below. I'm looking for a young woman. Elias felt it then, that same cold feeling from the river. It had followed them all the way into town, and this time it walked in through the front door like it belonged there. So the question wasn't whether trouble had found them. It already had. The real question was this. Was Clara running from those men, or was she the reason they were coming at all? Elias didn't wait to see who was coming up those stairs. He stepped into Clara's room, shut the door halfway, and lowered his voice. We're leaving. Clara didn't argue. That told him more than anything she could have said. They slipped out the back, through the kitchen, past the woodpile, and into the narrow alley behind the boarding house. Pike didn't try to stop him. She just pressed a small bundle into Elias's hand. Food, water, and a look that said she understood exactly what kind of trouble this was. They moved fast, keeping to the edges of town, avoiding the main road. Clara stayed close again, but this time it wasn't just fear. It was urgency, like she knew something Elias didn't. They didn't speak until Fort Laramie was behind them. Just open land, dry wind, and the sound of their boots on dirt. Finally, Elias slowed a little. Start talking. Clara looked ahead for a long moment before answering. I wasn't supposed to get out. Her voice was steadier now. They kept track. Names, stops, what each one owed before they moved her on. Elias glanced at her. That paper, she nodded. I wrote it, or most of it. You work for them. Clara shook her head fast. No, I survived them. I wasn't going back. Not alive. She swallowed hard. They needed someone who could read, write, count. I did what they told me so I could stay alive. A pause, then softer. Another girl made the noise last night, gave me time to run. Elias exhaled slowly. That explained the look in her eyes. Not just fear, guilt. He adjusted the strap on his shoulder. Who are they? Clara didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice dropped lower. Men who don't just take women. She looked at him now. They use them up, then send them on like they never mattered. That sat heavy in the air between them. Before Elias could ask more, Clara grabbed his arm. Don't turn around. Too late. Elias had already seen it. A rider on the ridge behind them. Still. Watching. Not chasing. Not yet. That was worse. Elias felt that same cold weight settle in his chest again. They found us. Clara shook her head slightly. No. Her eyes locked onto the distant figure. He found us. Elias narrowed his gaze. One man, calm, patient. Like this was already decided. Elias shifted his stance, ready without looking like it. So now it came down to something simple. Run, hide, or stand and face whatever was coming over that ridge. If this story's pulling you in, go ahead and subscribe. Grab yourself something warm to drink, sit back, and tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. Because what comes next won't give you much time to breathe. That man on the ridge wasn't in a hurry. And men like that only slow down when they know you've got nowhere left to go. Elias didn't run. A man who had lived long enough out on open land knew one thing. You don't outrun a patient hunter. You make him come to you. He guided Clara off the open path, down into a shallow cut in the land, where dry grass and broken rock gave them just enough cover. Stay low, he said. Clara nodded, her breathing tight but controlled now. She wasn't panicking anymore. That changed things. Elias crouched slightly, watching the ridge. The rider didn't rush, didn't circle, just came straight down, slow and steady, like time was on his side. That told Elias plenty. This wasn't some desperate outlaw. This was a man used to collecting what he came for. When he got closer, Elias saw him clearly. Clean coat, good horse, rifle resting easy like it belonged there. Not law, but not far from it either. The man stopped a short distance away. Didn't reach for his weapon. Didn't need to. "You've got something that ain't yours," he said calmly. Elias didn't move. "That's so—" The man's eyes shifted to Clara for just a second. That was enough. Clara stepped half behind Elias without thinking. The man noticed. Of course he did. "They're paying for her," he said. "Alive pays better." There it was. No badge, no law, just business. Elias spat lightly into the dirt. "Then you're in the wrong line of work." The man gave a small smile. "No, I'm in the only line that pays out here." And then it happened fast. The man moved first, not for Clara. For Elias. He knew exactly who the problem was. Elias stepped in, closing the distance before the rifle could come up clean. The two men collided hard. No fancy moves, just weight, fists, and bone. The kind of fight that ends quick or not at all. Clara stumbled back, eyes wide, but she didn't freeze. She grabbed a loose stone and threw it. Not strong, but enough. It struck the man's shoulder. Just enough to break his balance. Elias used it. Drove him down into the dirt, hard. The man didn't stay down long. He rolled, reached, and Elias saw it too late. A pistol. Elias lunged. Too close, too slow. The shot cracked across the dry land. Everything went still for a second. Dust hanging in the air. Clara's breath caught. Elias didn't even know if he'd been hit. Then he heard it. Another sound. Not from them. Hooves. More than one. Coming fast. From the wrong direction. Elias turned his head just enough to see shapes breaking over the far ridge. Not one rider. Several. And they weren't slowing down. So the man in front of him wasn't the worst problem anymore. He was just the first one. And the real trouble was about to arrive all at once. The sound of hooves came fast and heavy across the dry ground. Elias didn't wait to count how many. He grabbed Clara's arm and pulled her low. "Move." The man on the ground cursed and tried to rise, but this time Elias didn't stay to finish him, because this wasn't about winning a fight anymore. It was about getting out alive. They cut through the low brush, keeping down, moving fast but not blind. Behind them. The riders spread out, not shouting, not rushing. Men who had done this before. Clara stumbled once, then caught herself. Elias didn't let go, not for a second. After a long stretch that felt longer than it was, they reached a narrow pass of broken rock. Just enough space to hide, just enough to breathe. The riders passed beyond them, didn't see them, didn't need to, because men like that always come back. Elias leaned back against the stone, chest rising slow. Clara stood beside him, still shaking but not breaking, not anymore. For the first time since the river, she looked at him without fear. Just trust. Quiet, earned. Elias looked out at the open land ahead. He could still walk away. Leave this behind. Say it wasn't his fight. A younger man might have kept walking, but standing there, with dust still in the air and danger not far behind, Elias understood something simple. If he walked away now, those names on that paper would stay just names, and men like that would keep riding. So he made his choice. Not loud, not heroic, just steady. "They ain't taking you," he said. Clara nodded, because she already knew. Sometimes the hardest thing a man can do isn't pulling a trigger. It's deciding not to look away. Out here. Looking away costs more than standing up, and Elias Boone chose his. If this story meant something to you, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. Tell me where you're listening from, what time it is, and if you've ever had to make a call like that. I read those more than you think. This story was collected and retold, with a few details shaped to bring out clearer lessons and stronger meaning. All images are created with AI to help you feel the story more deeply. If this isn't for you, get some rest and take care. But if it stayed with you, leave a comment and let me know. Some stories stay with a man. If you were standing where Elias stood, knowing what was coming next, would you have stayed or would you have walked away?